Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're talking about internal barriers to trade. So these are restrictions on trade between provinces and some recent developments in trying to eliminate those barriers in the face of these new trade barriers being imposed by the United States, by Donald Trump. Because these internal barriers are fully within our control and we could remove them. And Ryan, a number of politicians have been talking now about removing these barriers. You mentioned the Premier of New Brunswick, and there's this discussion of creating a Atlantic zone for free trade. There's also been some comments from Alberta's Premier, I believe, about loosening trade restrictions. Maybe you could share your thoughts either on the maritime proposal or on how likely you think any of this is to actually happen. This isn't the first time provincial leaders have made noises about loosening these barriers, but I haven't. There hasn't been a lot of action, even though there has been talk before.
Yeah, great question. There's, pre-Confederation and now it's been an issue. I've been really actually quite surprised with the level of movement, and we're still waiting for a lot of it to translate to actual concrete action. But over the past, I'd say 8 weeks, like the Committee on Internal Trade has met 3 times, might be fourth time. But I think there's been leadership, especially from Alberta. We've seen some leadership from Minister Gibson in BC, but I think, and Minister Fideli in Ontario. But I think the real leader right now has actually been Premier Tim Houston, in Nova Scotia, introducing Bill 36 on mutual recognition for people, goods, and services. It is like short of the CPR and Confederation itself. There's little that could have as much impact as what is being contemplated in Nova Scotia legislature right now.
But how
Essentially,
likely?
just in briefly, sorry, go ahead.
My concern is that politicians have talked about this type of thing in the past, but nothing has actually emerged. So, how
Mhm.
likely do you think this is given Sabine's comments that there's entrenched interests who lobby the government to stop changes like this from happening?
That's absolutely a risk, and that's very much why folks have to keep government accountable. There's momentum, and we're hearing some talk, but it's actually translating that. So, for example, I was heartened to see governments open up direct to consumer for alcohol sales for Canadian alcohol. And Quebec and Ontario getting on board with that. That's wow. I never thought I'd see that, but I'm gonna hold my breath until I see sort of the necessary regulatory and legislative changes to permit that.
Sabine,
Absolutely.
what's your take? What do you think of the Atlantic proposal? How likely do you think any of these reforms are to succeed? And if they are to succeed, what might that mean for our economy?
Oh, I think it's great news that Canadians are finally so fed up with their quote unquote natural trading partner, the United States, after all of this tariff and trade war, that they're looking into alternative paths for trade, and they're holding, I think, the premiers accountable now. Finally, Canadians themselves, and that's how you get things done. It's by holding them to these things, and uh, political will means a lot in this case. And the political will is finally there. There's been a lot of false starts in the past, as you've said, but I think this time is different because of the anger, and just feeling so fed up with everything. And I think that there's no doubt that it would lead to greater prosperity for Canada if this went through. To me, the impact on consumers is going to be enormous. It's an actual free market in Canada. Perhaps a segment of the economy that's going to really benefit from this is small and medium businesses. They can finally expand their businesses without having to go through so many hoops in each province. If provinces want to help their own segments of industry, then that's actually a great way to do it, allowing those industries within their own province to expand and not stifle them in that way. So it'll be a huge difference. Very
Ryan,
positive.
you compared the potential impact of this to CPR, to the creation of the railway. Are there any specific industries in Canada that you think would benefit most from a freer interprovincial trade?
It's labor. It's people. People actually being able to exercise their charter Section 6 mobility rights and bring to bear their expression of their own labor wherever they want. Following in the model of Australia, who got this right 30 years ago, where they said you move from Queensland to New South Wales, you notify the local regulator, and they have 30 days to tell you that you cannot practice or that your practice is cabined. Think about the flipping of the burden. We already exercise mutual recognition.
Mhm.
Like when, a soccer dad is driving his kid to a tournament from Quebec to Ontario, we don't make him take another driving test at the
Yeah.
border, right? Like we do this. And when Ontario introduced mutual recognition of out of province
Mhm.
healthcare credentials, they said, yeah.
Great idea. We've got to go to break, but we'll be right back.